It's very real. I get an emotional reaction, physiological reaction, hormonal reaction, my nervous system reacts. Everything activates and turns on as if the threat is real.
There have been many times in my life before having these tools where something happens and I find myself in the behavior. I've been mindlessly scrolling on Instagram or reaching for the food, and I don't even know there was a trigger of an emotion. It's like I'm just immediately in the behavior. And I think that comes from so much repression. And then as Matt was talking about the difference between perceived and real threat, I was thinking about in childhood, for example, for me, when I grew up, I lived in Germany with my family. We left my family in Germany, and I then grew up with a single mom who worked a lot. So there was a lot of actual time alone. But there was also time where she was under a very high stress load, really all of the time. And so her threat bucket was very full. And she also tends to be someone who moves into dissociation. That's a well-worn path for her. So as a little kid, I would have these massive emotional outbursts, which I did because I had a lot of trauma prior to that. And I would have these big tantrums, but that was really stressful for her at a deep nervous system level. And she would move pretty quickly into that dissociated state. So even though she was still there with me, I wasn't actually being neglected. There still was someone present there to protect me, but emotionally not available. And I can see as children, we read the nervous system of our caregivers. And from my nervous system perspective, that felt like abandonment. My system perceived it as abandonment every time I expressed a big emotion. And so I learned pretty quickly that when I express these emotions, I get abandoned. And that the person that I need to have connection with in that moment is suddenly not present in their body, not present at a nervous system level with me. And so then the pattern becomes in my nervous system to repress it, to ignore it, to shove it down, to cover it up, because that feels safer than allowing that to come out with someone else and maybe losing their presence, rupturing the bond there. And then that pattern continues to play out in adulthood. And I move into these repressive patterns. Even though there's not actual danger, it's perceived in that, in my developing body as neglect.
Yeah. It's real to that little body, though. It's real to the nervous system of the person who's experiencing it. And that's something that, we try to keep in mind. And I think all practitioners or clinicians would do well to remember that a little more frequently, is that the experience of threat, whether it results in emotional pain and distress or physical pain, is always going to be unique to the individual. It's their individual nervous system doing its absolute best to perceive and protect itself within the environment, and to be able to make predictions about what it can safely do next. And those predictions are based off of previous experiences, right? So my previous experiences are different than Elisabeth's, different than Jennifer's, different than Joe or Tom or Bill or Sally. And on the situation, that's going to be different than any other person on the planet. And to me, it's very real. I get an emotional reaction, physiological reaction, hormonal reaction, my nervous system reacts. Everything activates and turns on as if the threat is real. So who am I to say as a practitioner or a coach or a clinician that threat wasn't real for someone, either in their childhood or in their adult life? Absolutely no right to just kind of roll right over that. What you said that's really important, that I kind of want to tease out a little bit, is the response, or I guess the result of suppression and repression are a little bit different, right? That explosion or that blow up that you talked about when the anger finally boils over is a little bit more of a response to the short-term suppression. Like, I've been swallowing it and I just can't hold anymore, and it's all going to come out, right? And we've probably all done that before. And that can be harmful for relationships, for ourselves, but it's our nervous system almost cleansing itself of everything that we've been holding on to, and that catharsis that comes with it, even though the expression in certain ways can be very unhealthy.
You just watched an excerpt from our full Trauma Rewired episode. There's so much more to this conversation. If you're curious about how neuroscience and the nervous system shape your behavior, resilience, and growth, click the link below to watch the full episode. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more insights and tools to rewire your nervous system for lasting change.